You've come to the end in our goodbye. What do we hope you got from this short course on the body skills of birthing better? Probably what we got, which was increased confidence about our body. You know, since the early 70s when these skills were developed, there's been a message in childbirth directed to women, which is women have always birthed, trust birth, you'll instinctively get in the right positions, you know your baby, you know your body. And while that's true for a few of us, and good on you if that was true for you, for the majority of us, we don't know our bodies. When I'm in third world countries, and if I ask women in third world countries, do you know where your cervix is? They don't know where their cervix is. They don't have a clue where their cervix is. Well, why would they? It's so scientific. I mean, really, a lot of us don't know where our cervix is. And when you mapped your pelvis, would you have been able to feel that big hole beforehand? Or did you know how your sacrum moved? When you went through the positions, did you look at a wall chart in childbirth classes and notice that a lot of those positions that actually would hinder your baby from coming through and out of your body were advocated? So it's very complicated to assume that just because women get pregnant, therefore we know how to birth. Our trust always likes to say it this way: just because we're randy, it doesn't mean we make good lovers. We have to learn how. Just because our children are hungry doesn't mean that that bush that has a yellow berry on it is good for them to eat. They need the skills to choose foods that are edible and not poisonous. Every aspect of our human life is full of skills, and yet around birth we shroud it with mystery. We basically say, well, every woman gives birth, women have given birth forever, so therefore women, what? Have good births? Know how to cope? Have a safe birth? No, women around the world die in childbirth. Babies die in childbirth. But it's not just death. We tear. Is our vagina meant to stretch? Well, to some degree. But why are we asking it to stretch that much? Sure, if we've had 10 children, it's gonna. But our first few, may not. What if our first baby's 5 pounds and our second is 10 pounds? So we've been unrealistic. And we've given messages that have actually damaged ourselves as humans, as women, as men, as families, and even in society. We've had an expectation of what is called the ideal birth. That's how women just sort of trust it and get on with it and have an easy birth and a great outcome. And they do that at home with a midwife, and there's no medical care around it. But I've lived and worked in third world countries, and I can tell you every culture is terrified of birth. But being terrified of birth doesn't mean they go into panic mode. What it means is they go into hypervigilance. That means they pay attention and they try to develop skills to mitigate any potential risks. But they don't always know how. There are cultures around the world that prepare women's vaginas. In Zimbabwe, they have a root that's soapy, and they tell women to massage inside their vagina until they can get their fist in it, because they know their fist is about equivalent to the size of the baby's head. There are other cultures that smoke the vagina, but other cultures don't. They don't know. And we hear about women who have been circumcised, whether we like it or not, or appreciate it, or think it is horrible. Men are circumcised in a lot of cultures. So the politics around what we do with our genitals is one thing. But around birth, we can soften the tissue in our vagina so we don't get traumatized. But in traditional communities, women can bleed. They can bleed fast. They can bleed slow. They can get infections. Babies can have birth defects, or they can be damaged during the birth. There are lots of things that happen at a birth that are normal and natural. It's not about frightening you. It's about helping you pay attention. And this is what's very important. This is what Birthing Better Families taught me, because what I do is carry on their skills and what they taught me. Why did I do it? Because they asked me to. Do I have a passion for birth? Yeah, I have a passion for my own births, but I have a passion that we are all skilled to birth our babies. Because the birth of your baby is as important as the birth of my baby. And when I had skills, I birthed better. And when you have skills, you'll birth better. And that birth may not be ideal. It may be horrible. You may hate every minute of it. But when you use skills, you know that you managed well. So what's important about the body skills? You gain confidence. And that's profound, and your partner gains confidence. You can feel when you are tense. You can choose to soften inside. You can choose to get into positions that open you down there and that align the top part of your body with the bottom part of your body if your contractions don't seem to be progressing. And if the message you get from your baby is, that's not the right position, because there's no peak to the contraction. They're just flat. If your baby feels stuck, you now have the hip lift and the sacral maneuver, or both of them together. It's really important for you to know that you have the ability to keep mobilizing your sacrum, that you can follow any tension in your back that your baby may create because your baby is relatively large for the internal space, and that you can create space where your baby has a snug fit and help that baby move down, and to know that the change in where you feel those sensations is an indication you have helped. This gives us power and empowerment. If you've previously had a birth and you didn't dilate and now you know how to use the pelvic clock and to soften inside, that's great, because you'll do that. Because nobody wants to be in labor forever, and nobody wants to have a cesarean because you haven't coped, or because your baby has gotten stuck and you didn't know what to do about it, or you tried everything and nothing worked. And the reason people try things is because they are trying to solve the problem at the moment. But if they don't have the appropriate skills, then they are just picking and choosing things without paying attention. I'll give you a great example. Women are told to constantly change positions. Well, why? If you're in a position in which you're having effective labor, every time you change positions, your baby has to adjust to that change of position. And you may change into a position your baby doesn't particularly like. It's not helping them. But you wouldn't know that because you've been given a message just to change positions regularly. Another thing that's really important to know is that they actually did a study in New Zealand where our trust is. And the midwife who told me about the study was proud of it, because it stopped women from theoretically having medical pain relief. So the study was, what is pain relief? What is the most common way of mitigating pain in labor? And that was to change positions. It sounds good, but it's crazy. So what happens is that when women are having effective labors, progressing effective labors, but lack skills to cope, women are going, it's too much, it's too much. And so they get into positions that back off the labor, back off the pain. And the women go, oh, that's better. Instead of having a contraction every minute, it's now spaced out to every 3 minutes. I feel so much better. That's crazy. You don't want to stay in labor those 3 minutes longer. So if we don't have skills to cope with progressing births, with the intensity of the pain, and if you don't like the word pain, use rush, use waves, it doesn't matter. If you don't have the skills to cope with the intensity of the sensations, then you're going to try to back off those sensations. And backing off them is often working against your baby's efforts to come down through and out your body. This is what families taught me. This is what I'm passing on to you. So, do you have to use the body skills at every moment of the birth? You may never use them. But if you need them, you have them. So we hope that you'll purchase the other 2 short courses, because you're down this path now, okay? So we wish you lots of luck and love And just know that you have tens and thousands of birthing better families standing up behind you, and they're all talking in your ear. So bye-bye.